माननीय सदस्य श्री मिलिंद मुरली देवड़ा, आपके पास 8 मिनट समय है। प्लीज।
इनका टाइम बीजेपी का था। मैडम, मैं सबसे पहले माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी को, सरकार को, हमारे राज्य मंत्री जी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, बधाई देता हूं कि उन्होंने एक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण बैंकिंग लॉज अमेंडमेंट बिल लाया है। These amendments are very timely because in many cases they are modernizing provisions that are almost 75 years old. मैं आज बहुत ही कॉन्फिडेंस, विश्वास और गर्व के साथ कह सकता हूं कि इस सरकार के उपलब्धियों में से एक जो बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण, बहुत ही अहम उपलब्धि है कि आज पिछले 10 वर्षों में हमारे पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स का पूरी तरह से क्लीन अप हो चुका है। बहुत बड़ी बात है। 2018 में पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स में एनपीएस का परसेंटेज ऑलमोस्ट 15% हुआ करता था। सितंबर 2024 में नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट्स आर ओनली 3%। इसके साथ साथ लास्ट ईयर सभी पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स को मिलाकर उन्होंने अनप्रेसिडेंटेड रिकॉर्ड प्रॉफिट कमाया है 1.41 लाख करोड़ रुपीस। एंड बाय द एंड ऑफ दिस ईयर द पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स विल अर्न ऑलमोस्ट 1.5 lakh crore rupees of net profits. This is unprecedented, and I congratulate the government. I congratulate the Prime Minister, the Finance Minister for very, very bold reforms to achieve this objective. इसके साथ साथ हमारे पीएम जनधन अकाउंट्स 2014 में जो एवरेज बैलेंस है, 2014 की एवरेज बैलेंस 1065 रुपीज हुआ करती। आज 2024 में 4400 रुपीज एवरेज बैलेंस है। ये भी एक बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि है और मैं सरकार को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूं, बधाई देता हूं। बिल में ऐसे बहुत सारे प्रोविजंस है जो मैंने कहा है कि 75 इयर्स की जो एक प्रकार से इस सेक्टर को नजरअंदाज, इग्नोर किया गया। वन गुड इनिशिएटिव is to increase the tenure of directors of cooperative banks from 8 years to 10 years. The MOS of this ministry is sitting here. I would suggest that there are many kinds of banks in this country. There are cooperative banks, there are scheduled commercial banks, there are SFBs, which are small finance banks, which RBI is giving licenses to. It will be a good suggestion to have uniformity across banks in terms of the tenure of the directors. This will bring governance standards in alignment with the Companies Act. An outdated provision of the 1949 Act limited MDs and EDs. EDs means executive director, not the other ED. MDs and EDs of banks to own only 5 lakh rupees worth of shares in other companies. This has been increased to 2 crores. I commend the Finance Ministry for addressing what was a very long overdue issue which successive governments should have considered in the last 75 years. I'm coming to you, Jairam. Another very progressive reform, which is a very important reform. जब लोग बैंक अकाउंट खोलते हैं, they are allowed to nominate only one nominee. This bill provides for a depositor to nominate 4 people, which gives a lot of flexibility to the depositors, and I congratulate them. Few suggestions that I have more than a speech. मैंने स्मॉल फाइनेंस बैंक्स को हाईलाइट किया है। द लास्ट फ्यू इयर्स में स्मॉल फाइनेंस बैंक्स हैव डन वेरी वेल फॉर दिस कंट्री। दे आर मैंडेटेड टू ओपन 25% of their branches in rural unbanked areas. In the last few years, 2016 to 21, small finance bank branches have increased from 415 to 5,107 branches. Their deposits have increased by 32% in the last 3 years from 2020 to 2023. But there are some discrepancies between small finance banks and between scheduled commercial banks. The small finance banks, their priority sector lending is 40% of adjusted net credit banks. For scheduled commercial banks, for SFBs, that's 75%. Similarly, CRAR for SFBs is 15%, whereas for other banks, it's 11.5%. I think it's time to align the CRAR and priority sector lending between small finance banks and scheduled commercial banks. एक बहुत ही significant change जो आज हमारे देश में अंडरवे है 2014 में और 2014 के पहले भारत को कहा जाता था कि भारत एक it is a nation of savers. Today, under the reforms of this government, India has become a nation of investors. One startling statistic, very important statistic. In 2014, the assets under management of mutual funds were less than 10% of bank deposits. Today, they are 31% and steadily growing. While this is a good trend, I come from Mumbai, this is a good trend. It's deepening our capital markets. It's reducing our dependence on short-term foreign inflows. It's also creating one concern and one challenge for all banks, whether it's PSUs or private sector banks. As more capital is moving towards equity markets, banks are finding it increasingly challenging to retain depositors and to attract new depositors. I have few suggestions to ensure that we can retain the depositors that banks have and attract depositors. There's no question that banks cannot make current and savings accounts as competitive as other products and other asset classes that are out there. But for instance, आज यदि एक इन्वेस्टर, आम इन्वेस्टर है, वो यदि एक डेट म्यूचुअल फंड में इन्वेस्ट करता है, तो डेट म्यूचुअल फंड अट्रैक्ट्स अ टैक्स only upon redemption of that debt mutual fund, not on accrual of interest. But if a depositor invests in a fixed deposit, that tax is accrued and charged upon accrual of interest, which is very different. If the government brings these in alignment, it will make fixed deposits. Maybe you can do this for a tenure of only 5-year fixed deposits. It will make fixed deposits as competitive as debt funds and will allow banks to retain depositors, to attract new depositors who are otherwise moving towards other asset classes to invest their money. And why is this important? Because today, if banks are flushed with funds, they can lend to MSMEs, which account for 45% of India's manufacturing. And the more banks have money, the more that they can lend at cheaper rates and fuel India's economy. Another very, very serious challenge before banks, पब्लिक सेक्टर एंड प्राइवेट सेक्टर. मैंने कई बार इस सदन में अपने भाषण में कहा कि यूपीआई भारत के लिए नहीं लेकिन अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर के लिए एक बहुत बड़ी अचीवमेंट है. कुछ महीने पहले, आई थिंक दिसंबर और जनवरी, इन 1 month, इंडिया रिकॉर्डेड अ हिस्टोरिक 17 बिलियन ट्रांजैक्शंस अंडर यूपीआई. बट टुडे UPI's main 2 companies that are running on UPI platforms are GPay.
माननीय सदस्य, प्लीज.
मुझे टाइम है, मुझे उन्होंने मुरुगन जी ने मुझे समय दिया.
5 मिनट. ठीक.
So, one suggestion on UPI. The companies that are running on UPI's platform today, who have 90% market share, are PhonePe and GPay. PhonePe is owned by Walmart, GPay is owned by Google. Means 90% of UPI, while we are proud of UPI's success, 90% of UPI are run by American companies. One thing is very clear, while UPI has done very well, it also shows that our banks, public sector and private sector, are not innovating enough. One suggestion I would give to the Finance Ministry, we have to encourage innovation in our banking system. Banking system को हमें disruptor बनाना है. If we don't innovate efficiently, the banking sector can be disrupted by new technologies. आज एक अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर DeFi, decentralized finance पे चर्चा हो रही है. Embedded finance, These are future technologies which are circumventing banks and allowing people to borrow, lend directly without banking intermediaries. US सरकार ने अभी डोनाल्ड ट्रंप के आने के बाद उन्होंने भी इस डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड फाइनेंस, खास करके ब्लॉकचेन टेक्नोलॉजी को वे एक प्रकार से बहुत इनकरेज कर रहे हैं. मैं माननीय मंत्री जी से निवेदन करूंगा कि हमारे भारतीय बैंक्स को भी, पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स हो, प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स, वी मस्ट एनकरेज इनोवेशन, बी ओपन माइंडेड. एम्बेडेड फाइनेंस ऑल्सो एक बहुत बड़ी एक नई ट्रेंड है हमारे देश में. एम्बेडेड फाइनेंस मार्केट is about $6 billion today, expected to be $30 billion by 29. Embedded finance means ओला जैसे कंपनी है, Amazon जैसे कंपनियां हैं, वो अपने प्लेटफॉर्म्स पर ही इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट्स को बेचते हैं, डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करते हैं. इससे होता क्या है कि बैंक्स की जो विजिबिलिटी है वो कस्टमर के दिमाग में कम होती है. सो वी हैव टू एनकरेज इनोवेशन in the banking sector, especially when it comes to DeFi, especially when it comes to embedded finance, if we want to be disruptors and not be disrupted. But since my dear friend Mr. Jairam Ramesh raised one point, I would like to say one more achievement. मैंने कहा कि one very big achievement of the government is to clean up the banking sector. The second very big achievement of the government, especially when it comes to banking, is that there is a convergence between what the finance ministry is doing and what the environment ministry is doing. I would like to quote someone: corruption and delayed planning permits or land and environmental clearances under the UPA government contributed to the build-up of non-performing assets post the global financial crisis on Indian banks. These are not my words. These are the words of Raghuram Rajan. Raghuram Rajan said that the environment ministry, finance ministry used to work in different directions. Today Mr. Jairam Ramesh and Mr. Chidambaram sit close to each other. One was the former finance minister, one was the former environment minister. But still, you have a lot to answer for that. So what I would like to say, please don't talk about shame. The derailing of the banking sector, which led to NPAs, was a direct result of this divergence. And today, I congratulate the government and the Prime Minister for converging. What the Prime Minister says is a national priority. Every ministry takes part and plays towards that agenda. That's very, very critical for us to grow. I would only say in conclusion that these amendments are very timely. In many cases, they are reversing 75 years of successive governments that they have overlooked. It's a very positive thing. I think that these will make our banking sector, our financial sector, public sector banks, private sector banks far more competitive, not just in India, but globally. I thank the government and congratulate the government for this decision. Thank you.
धन्यवाद. माननीय सदस्य